and there was like a stick painted white, and usually that means there's landmines in the area or bombs, you know, they plant. So I saw one. I was like, "Hey boss, there's a white stick here, there's landmines." He's like, "Okay, well, step in the buffalo tracks," right? So there's a herd of buffalo living in the area. I was like, "I don't see any buffalo tracks." He said, "Well, then step on my footprints." I was like, "I can't see your footprints." He said, "Well, then pray to Buddha, motherfucker." Because like, I realized like, oh yeah, this is real now. Like, yeah, it was pretty nuts. It was pretty exciting. My name is Matt Wilson. I come from the United States. I lived in Thailand approximately 10 years ago for 2 years, and I went back to the US, and now I've just moved back here in October. And so I'm working, trying to live through the COVID times and seeing what's going to happen. It's kind of a weird story how I got started with my career, but I my trip to Thailand 10 years ago is what started me in my current career field, which is security. Um, so a long time ago, in 2007, I took a trip to Thailand to do some volunteer work on the Thai-Myanmar border. Um, and I worked for a Burmese migrant workers group called Yongchi-U. And while I was doing volunteer work with them, you know, I befriended them and made friends with a lot of their friends. So in the process of that, I ended up making friends with a lot of different Burmese ethnic militia leaders. So particularly among the Arakanese ethnic minority group, what we ended up doing was we'd go into Myanmar, we'd build up local security teams, and we would provide security for journalists, NGO workers, and doctors who were trying to provide assistance in conflict zones, particularly in eastern Burma. But wherever we could help, we tried to help. So we worked with a lot of different groups, both ethnic groups and NGOs and journalists, etc. And you know, made some money, not a lot of money doing it, but it was rewarding. We'd either be patrolling from village to village to, you know, get these doctors, journalists, NGO workers plying their different trades, or we'd help in other ways, like we helped, I don't want to say smuggle, but you know, helped creatively deliver a lot of malaria medicine, working with some groups out there, provided training for the different groups. We would spend a lot of time in camp, maybe doing PT or training with guys there, and getting to know them. We do kind of some information gathering. A lot of time, like the Burmese government, they had bounties on the NGO workers and journalists and doctors and any foreigners basically helping local groups out there. So I don't know if you're aware, but the Burmese government has a long history of committing human rights abuses and atrocities against not only the main ethnicity, the Burmese, but especially against a lot of these smaller ethnic groups like the Karen, the Karenni, the Kachin, the Mon, the Shan, Arakanese, you know, all the main ones especially. But so like, you know, a lot of my friends have some really terrible stories. Like I remember one of the guys, he didn't have any family or anybody that he knew in his life, and he didn't really care if he died, and he came to train with us, and he ended up getting his legs blown off by a landmine later, so that was sad. We had another guy who hadn't seen his wife and kids in 12 years because they were in enemy occupied territory, so he was with his different, you know, group, couldn't go back in to see his family. And hear a lot of stories like that. You know, it's pretty common for, like, when the Burmese government, if they enter your village, if the men aren't home, you know, they find whether they're out in the fields or, you know, planting crops, or if they're fighting with a guerrilla group, the soldiers might still rape your wife or your daughter or whoever, maybe kill them. So I got shot at basically once, but it was over the course of 3 days, and it was day and night, and that was pretty nuts. And I mean, I realized at the time how how unprepared I was for that. I mean, we were armed, right? We had guns to protect ourselves, and the people were hiring us, of course. And I knew how to use it, and I'd been trained, you know. But man, like people shooting at you, they're far away, and it's like I cannot see shit. And thankfully, my boss is very experienced, and you know, so he gave me binoculars, and I was able to look and help him find them. He had a long range rifle, so he was able to discourage them from being too active. And I remember there was another time during that time when we were being shot at. We walked through a tree line to get cover, and there was like a stick painted white. And usually that means there's landmines in the area or bombs, you know, they plant. So I saw one. I was like, "Hey, boss, there's a white stick here. There's landmines." He's like, "Okay, well, step in the buffalo tracks, right?" So there's a herd of buffalo living in the area. I was like, "I don't see any buffalo tracks." He said, "Well, then step on my footprints." I was like, "I can't see your footprints." He said, "Well, then pray to Buddha, motherfucker." Because like I realized like, oh yeah, this is real now. Like, yeah, it was pretty nuts. It was pretty exciting. But yeah, eventually we did get away from them. He had a lot more encounters with them. A couple times they chased him through the jungle for 11 days, and they only had like rice and salt to eat and whatever they could find in the jungle. So that sounded pretty nuts. I wasn't there for that one. Still, I mean, for me, who's never experienced it, getting shot is pretty scary. Like even like the machine gun rounds are not coming by super close. You know, the mortars are landing not super close, but you feel the ground shake, and you know, you're running and you hear like machine gun fire. Yeah, it's pretty frightening. I mean, but at the same time, like in a way, it's exciting, like in a good way too. But you know, you want to go back, but like, of course, at the time, like when you're there, you're like, you know, oh God, let me get through this, you know. But it was funny. So after we returned fire and couldn't find any more, and it was decided that it's safe for us to move out. Like I'm sitting there like trying to duck through the trees and walk out, and my boss just stands up and just starts walking, like doesn't care. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, they're busy now, don't worry about it. That's the most badass thing I've ever seen. But like yeah, so like, you know, my experience, like my inexperience, I definitely would not have had the guts to just not worry about that. But he knows already that they're taking care of their casualties, they're worrying about their wounded, and they know that as long as they don't pursue us, they're probably safe, and so they're not occupying their attention with us. So that was interesting. And then emotionally, there was some stuff that came later, but like I wasn't prepared for it. I thought like, yeah, if we gotta kill somebody in self-defense, that's fine. It's fine. It makes sense, right? But like, you know, like we could hear them on their radios and stuff, and it occurs to you that these people want to live too, like just like you. And so I mean, like nothing that, you know, nothing that one can't deal with, but like, you know, oh, you know, I didn't expect to feel that, you know, the way that I felt. And so that kind of put me off guard a little bit. But you know, I think most men want to experience these kind of things to test themselves and see how they react. And not a lot of people get to do that. So in the end, I still count it as a good experience that I appreciated having. No, so one of the special forces guys I was working with out there back then, he came back here and started a security company called Demos Security. Anybody watching in the need for security services, www.demos-security.com. I recommend you check it out. Yeah, he came back here, started a security company, and they're doing quite well. So he had contracts for some of the biggest nightclubs here in Bangkok. And I missed Thailand a lot, so I really wanted to move back. So it was kind of all those things. And then also met a girl in the U.S., and she's Thai. She moved back here. So that was another reason I wanted to come back. So we did close protection for some American billionaire entrepreneurs. I don't want to say who they are without their permission, but for a couple days, and the money was really good. So I was like, okay, definitely time to think about coming back. And it was really enjoyable too. I really enjoyed the work. I really enjoyed working with my boss again. I really enjoyed working with some Thai police that we had working with us for the job, and I really enjoyed just the nature of the work. You know, it felt challenging in a good way, and learning new things in some ways, and it was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed it, and I want to come back and do some more of it. So. Like, an easy way to do it is to keep scanning. So like you basically just, you know, your field of view, you just look, you know, at different intervals. Like you don't, not like a computer or something like that, but like, you know, look at what's going on over here. Anything weird? No. Okay, it's over here. Okay. All right. Maybe every once in a while check your back. Whatever. Okay, cool. And then just pay attention and monitor people. See if anyone's doing anything unusual. See if anybody's wearing unseasonable clothing. See if anybody looks like they're out of the norm. You know, like kind of get a baseline for the area you're in, and then see if anybody is exceeding that baseline in any way. So billionaire business people, a lot of times these business people, like, you know, in the United States, they'll have their own personal executive protection that they hire for themselves, but when they travel abroad, maybe they want someone who's familiar with the area, has contacts with the area. So, you know, lots of times if people are traveling from the West over to here, then yeah, they'll contact us for that. Sometimes we have like performers. We've had A-list celebrities working both for movies, for like musicians performing here that we provided bodyguard services for. And then sometimes, on occasion, it's not so often, but does happen on occasion, maybe business people who aren't high profile enough that they need their own personal protection, if they have a business dispute or maybe a particularly bad lover's quarrel, something like that, or someone's threatening them, blackmailing them, then they might contact us, and what we'll do then is, of course, provide close protection and security for them, while at the same time we'll do an investigation on whoever is attempting to harm them or blackmail them or whatever, and then we will try and provide a legal recourse to eliminate that problem. So it's a pretty useful service if you're in a place of need and don't have a lot of contacts with dangerous people. Then it's good to be able to have some people protect you. Like business in Southeast Asia can get pretty hairy sometimes if you make the wrong enemies or friends. So, for example, one of the investigations that my boss was involved in, there were two European gentlemen who had been doing a lot of business here in Thailand, and it became known to some Thai customs officers that these two gentlemen were making a lot of money, probably had a lot of money, and so they ended up calling some of their police friends and saying, "Let's get these guys. What do you think?" You know, and so these two European gentlemen were staying in a hotel, and they went to the ATM, got approached by two police officers who told them, "Hey, we have videotape of you guys committing debit card fraud, so we're gonna need you to come with us." So they did. They cuffed them, put them in a van, put hoods over their face, and then drove them around for a long time, and then took them to a partially abandoned hotel about half an hour away, and held them there for days, where they proceeded to torture them and starve them, beat them. So through all of that, these two police officers were telling them to, call their bank, get this money transferred out of their account, put it in their account, these different accounts and all that. So through that, they were able to communicate with on the other line in their native language that, they're under duress, they need help, and please someone help. So the person on the other end ended up contacting their home country's embassy. Their home country says, "We don't have any assets on ground in Thailand, so we really can't do anything." So they also tried contacting the U.S. embassy, and U.S. embassy kind of said the same thing, and then they referred them to a friend of ours, who referred them to a friend of us, and then in cooperation with one of our friends in the DSI, Thai DSI, kind of like your version of FBI, I think. we ended up helping with an investigation. We found these guys, and then of course in combination with Thai authorities, we were able to assist in rescuing these two guys, getting them and their families to the airport as soon as possible before any retribution could occur. And then I believe it ended in the arrest of the customs and police officers. Oh yes. I haven't had my company, a lot of their work is based around tourism, based around nightclubs, stuff like that. So of course all that stuff shut down for now. So yeah, pretty much without a paycheck. So I guess I heard recently that the government is allowing nightclubs to open again in July 1, which means that my next paycheck will be August 1, unless some other work comes across soon. Doing the normal Falang stuff, some online English teaching, trying to explore other avenues of income, but pretty much just saving up, trying not to spend too much money, wait it out. Enjoy working with my Thai team actually. They're a great group of guys, and we've had like minor problems here or there, and then if I give them like an earnest discussion, they really make an honest effort to fix things when they're messed up. They do a great job of righting themselves when they're wrong, and many times they're professional guys. Generally, they do the right thing, but they're a good group of guys, and I really enjoy working with them. So I do enjoy like the management aspect of that. I like having like those, international friendships, I suppose. I really enjoy working with my Thai teams. It also feels good when you're able to solve people's problems too. And sometimes even people don't know they're having problems. Like someone's so drunk they can't take care of themselves, and you making sure that they get home safely. It's a really good feeling actually. I enjoy that. And someone who may not have been safe, like a couple times, especially we have a lot of times young drunk women who having too much fun, and they pass out and throwing up and they can't take care of themselves. And we have prevented sexual assaults and kidnappings before, and it does happen, and there are things you really got to be careful about. It's not all the time, but it does happen, and you feel really good knowing that in those cases that someone isn't going to have a traumatic experience that they have to deal with the rest of their lives just because of some simple effort you put in, just someone caring. And I like that. I feel good about that a lot. So if you ask me, does that make up for all the assholes? I'll say yeah, totally. In a nightclub, what we would do is, if I had to put my hands on somebody, generally not what I want to do. Even before I approach somebody, if it looks like they're going to be a real problem, then I'll want to have another guy or two with me, just to both assist me if I need it, and also make sure none of his friends come up from the side and sucker punch me or something like that. So, if this guy refuses to follow commands and I have to kick him out, I'll just grab his arm and his bicep and his wrist and say, all right, sir, it's time to go. No, I'll start gently pulling, and then if he becomes resistant, like trying to swing or something, and me and my other guy can't get him out, we have a variety of, joint locks or manipulations that we can do to either make it very difficult for him to resist, or to provide enough pain for him to comply. We might have to put them on the ground and carry them out. It's happened before. Generally, that's the end of it. Most people are not super prone to conflict and will try to avoid it, which is good. And then just trying to make yourself be comfortable in it. It's a little tough at first, but you get used to it. And then learning how to be kind of a jerk. You got to be firm. Even if someone's got a reasonable argument, but hey, look, I said whatever, and you got to go. And I don't really care. I care, but I don't. So go. I think it makes me actually kind of more of an agreeable person overall. When I was a little kid, I had a lot of bullying problems when I was in school. A lot of bullies messed with me and stuff when I was like elementary school, middle school, and then so my parents put me in Taekwondo classes. I got my black belt in that over a couple of years, and Taekwondo is actually pretty worthless for fighting, but I didn't know that back then, and I felt more confident. And before then, I used to get into a lot of fights, and after I learned martial arts, I stopped, and so then after that, I got into college. I started doing some jiu-jitsu. I did some southern style kung fu called Jiao Ga. So when I was in Kung Fu with him, I did Kung Fu for 6 years. He did it with me. He was really good friends with my brother too, and did like game nights and stuff back then. And it's funny because I came back from Myanmar and I was talking to him about it. We were hanging out, and he was like, "Hey, you have any interest in learning like cybersecurity stuff?" I said, "Totally." So he brought me over to his house and showed me like some of the basics about cybersecurity, and I was really interested. And he's like, "Would you have any interest in maybe opening an NGO together? Because there's a lot of different government grants for basically teaching pro-democracy groups in other countries covert communications." I was like, "Yeah, I'd be interested in that," because I had my experience, over here, and he, of course, is a cybersecurity professional at the time, and so yeah, I was interested, and we never followed up or did anything with it though. And if we had, God knows, I probably would never have been able to work for DHS or the government again. But he was a really good guy, really, really good guy, nice guy. I'm so sad that he's got to do what he's been doing. But yeah, really nice guy. When we met in Kung Fu and we were good friends. Also, that was around the time that I ended up breaking up with my first real girlfriend. I considered her like a fiance, bought her a ring and stuff and dumb kid stuff, but for me it meant a lot back then. And he had a girlfriend at the time. She was really pretty. She ended up later being kind of crazy, but I think he realized she was kind of crazy. He kind of got tired of her. So he told her to ask me out, and so she did. And I was like, okay, cool, because I was very inexperienced and young and stuff, so I was excited to have a pretty girl ask me out. So I thought that's kind of a good friend move on his part. She ended up being crazy later, but he was just super nice guy, super good guy. I remember Ed went to the military. He went and joined the army. He went through special forces selection when he broke his ankle, so he had to discontinue from that. And I remember him coming back to our Kung Fu school and crutches and stuff, and just making jokes, goofing off, doing game nights. I don't know, he's a good guy, man. He's a good guy. I'd like to buy the man a beer. He deserves it. Not to say whether or not publicly I agree with what he did or how he did it, per se, but I don't think he deserves what he's going through. I wish that the Obama administration had agreed to give him a public trial, which they refused to do. He agreed to come back under those terms. They would not commit to anything, which is crazy. Anyway, it seems like the American public has made up their mind in regards to the stuff he disclosed, and he's kind of on the losing end of that. And what are you going to do? I guess Americans have decided that security is better than freedom, except for when it comes to wearing a mask, I guess. So I don't know what to say about my country right now. It's crazy.